What's up, everybody? This is Rob Metalworks, and welcome. Yes, I'm so excited. Welcome to the Mas Metal Monologue number 6. And as many of you guys know, this is my opportunity to share with you the things that I love, the tangible things that I love about heavy metal music. And as you guys have seen before, yes, I'm a collector of posters and music and figures, but I'm also a big collector of books. Now, I have several heavy metal books in my archive, and tonight I'm going to share one with you that's especially dear to my heart. Now, I wanted to also share with you a couple that are in my archive. Let me first show you this book. I really love this book because, as you guys know, I grew up in the 80s during the innovation of thrash metal out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And if that is your era, then you have to have this book. This is called Murder in the Front Row, which was released by some photographers in the Bay, which highlights the early days of Slayer, Exodus, Metallica. Oh man, so many great photos in here that you're not gonna find anywhere else. And if you want to reminisce about that time when you were a teenager, this is the book. Now, of course, my boys at Metallica have released several books over the years. You know, they've had photographers follow them all over the world since the beginning of their career. And their main photographer is Ross Halfin. And Halfin did a book to commemorate, of course, the record that really crossed him over into the commercial arena. That was the black and white book from Metallica by Ross Halfin, which highlights the era of the Black Album, and a very significant era. And coincidentally, for all you guys who may be thinking, yes, all the photos in this book are in black and white. This is a killer book to take a look at when you have a chance. Now, last year, there were some books that came out as well, and James Hetfield was the first one early last year to release his own book. And what was very intriguing was it wasn't a book about the band. It was a book about him. So when you see this book entitled Messengers, the Guitars of James Hetfield, nowhere on the book does it say Metallica. But we all know who James Hetfield is. And of course, for all of you musicians and metal enthusiasts or Metallica fanatics like me, you want to learn all about James's guitars because we've seen him play several throughout his career, the early Gibson Vs all the way up until his custom ESPs, all identified and talked about in this book. Very killer. Cool book too. I like it. Hardback. Now, earlier this year, Kirk Hammett announced that he was going to release his own guitar book. So I don't know who came up with the idea first. Maybe at the same time. But let me tell you this. Kirk's book is so much fucking cooler. Go ahead and take a look at it. Now, first of all, guys, let me tell you, you could kill somebody with this book. It's so goddamn heavy. It's like, it must weigh like 5 pounds. Super heavy, but why wouldn't it? Because it's a hardback, 400 pages, released by Gibson Publishing on March 20, 2025. So this book is spanking brand new, and I had to get it, man, when it came out because, you know, when I think about my early love for the band, there were certain guitars that I just always loved to see Kirk shred on. And I was hoping that all those guitars are talked about in this book, and I was not disappointed. Yes, they are. Now, guys, I'm going to share some information about this book before we start getting into the content. Now, first of all, let me tell you that there's 3 different editions of this book that you can buy. This that I have here is the standard edition. Now, I'm going to talk about them in elevations. This standard edition will cost your pocketbook about $150. It's just the book itself, you know, but regardless of what edition you get, the content's all the same. Now, there's also what they call the deluxe edition. The deluxe edition is the same size, which is a 14 by 10, but there are some little cool things that you get with it. First of all, it is autographed by Kirk Hammett himself. It does come, because it's autographed, it does come with a certificate of authenticity. And you will also see that there is a slipcase which has Greenie, which is the name of one of his most famous guitars, on the cover. That edition of the book will set you back $300. Yeah. Yeah. Then, for all you super fanatics, there is what they call the custom edition. The custom edition of the book is also a larger version of the book. It is 17 by 12 inches. So a little bit bigger than the one that I just showed you. It does come in a box. It does come with lithograms and art. It does come with also a little cool replica model of Kirk Hammett's initial 1979 Gibson Black Flying V. There's also a tin which has some picks in there. It also is signed and has a certificate of authenticity. That edition of the book will sell for $800. Guys, and believe it or not, if you go to Gibson.com, that edition, the $800 edition, is sold out, which is really mind-blowing, man. To pay that much for the book. But I guess there's people out there that love Kirk Hammett more than I do. But now let's go ahead and go in there and talk about his guitars. Now there's several guitars that they talk about in this book. Primarily everything from the early days all the way up until the present. So you'll see his transition even moving from ESP to Gibson. Now, I don't have all that time to talk about each and every single guitar, but I will talk about some of my favorite guitars, and I'm going to share some pictures with you. So let's get to it. Are you ready? All right, everybody. As I've shared, there are dozens of guitars in this book that Kirk Hammett highlights and discusses. Now, I'm only going to talk about maybe about 10 of them for this episode of the Mas Metal Monologue. And the first guitar I'm going to talk about is the first guitar that Kirk talks about in the book, and that is the 1979 Gibson Black Flying V. Now, this guitar is very significant because it was Kirk's first real guitar. And if you don't quite recall, this is the guitar that many of us really got to know Kirk Hammett with when he joined the band initially and started touring for Kill 'Em All. Now, this guitar is very significant because when Kirk got this guitar, he felt, oh man, I really found my sound. He loves it because it's light, and that guitar is super durable. It went through 3 or 4 tours initially with Kirk, and Kirk was heavily influenced by Michael Schenker of UFO, and Michael Schenker always played a Gibson V. So this guitar is actually still around in his archive, and he recently retired it a few years back. But man, I used to love to see him play that guitar. I have several photos in my studio of Kirk, of which I'll share a couple with you. Here's another one, old school one of a live shot with Kirk Hammett with that guitar. Now, as we move on, this guitar was so coveted by many people that in 2023, Gibson made actual replicas of this guitar. Now, when I use the word replica, I mean that it had all the scratches and dings and dents on it that Kirk Hammett had on his personal guitar. A replica of what Kirk had. Now, those guitars were limited to 200 and sold for buku bucks. Buku bucks. I'm thinking like around the $12,000 range. Yeah, crazy. Love guitar. Love that guitar. Had to talk about it first. Let's move on. Now we're going to talk about a guitar that's in the book that Kirk talks extensively about, because this was the guitar that made him want to play guitar. And this is the 1971 Gibson Medallion Flying V. Now you can see it. It's black and white. And this guitar, when you look at it, you might think, oh, Michael Schenker. Yes, because Michael Schenker plays these Gibson Flying V's with the black and white paint combination. Now, what makes this guitar very significant is that this guitar was owned by both Michael Schenker and Rudolf Schenker when Michael was in the Scorpions. Now, they call it the medallion guitar because if you look closely, I'll show you a picture. There is a gold coin in the upper wing which commemorates the 1972 Olympics, and that's how people identify this guitar. And Kirk Hammett used to see this guitar pictured in the back of albums. However, the difference is that back at that time, this guitar was red. It was colored red. And later on, when Michael left Scorpions, he changed the color to black and white, which is what you see today. And really, this guitar, Kirk was able to purchase it in 2020 from Wolf Hoffman of Accept. Man, what a treasure that must have been for him, having the opportunity to buy the guitar that he would dream about looking at the back of records, and that he actually had a chance to own it. Yeah, very significant guitar. Of course, Kirk doesn't play it live or anything like that. It's in his collection. Now, let's move on to really the guitar that a lot of people have been talking about in the 2020s because Kirk acquired it in 2014 while he was visiting in London. Many of you guys know about the 1959 Gibson Les Paul, which is called Greenie. Yes, Greenie. And he purchased this guitar, like I said, in 2014 from a seller. And this guitar is quite notorious and famous for a couple of reasons. First of all, it was owned by Peter Green, who played in Fleetwood Mac. Then later on, it was owned by Gary Moore. But not only is there a long history with the guitar, but what really makes this guitar special is the sound. And you can find a lot of videos of Kirk talking about the unique sound of this guitar. So it kind of has a reverse polarity with the pickups. They magnetically phase in and out in the middle position, and that is what he calls the dragging tone. And really, Greenie is not only a guitar that he owns. He actually feels like he's the caretaker of this guitar. So long after Kirk Hammett is gone, this guitar will live on. And who knows who he will pass it along to next, or who from the Kirk Hammett estate will get it next. But Kirk has said many times that he feels like he's just the caretaker. And he loves and covets this guitar so much that it never, ever leaves his side. When he travels on a plane or in a helicopter, he has Greenie. When he stays at a hotel, Greenie's in the room with him. He never lets it out of his sight, and that's how much he loves this guitar. Yes, this guitar, however, is one that he plays, and he's said also many times that Greenie wants to be heard. So you will see him even in the new tour for the new record, 72 Seasons. You'll see footage of Kirk playing this really old guitar from 1959. So look for it. Next, let's go ahead and talk about a guitar that actually became very popular when Metallica became more popular, and that was during the Black era. Yes, I'm talking about the ESP Kirk Hammett signature model called the Zorlak, the Black Zorlak. So Kirk Hammett actually got partnered with ESP Guitars back in 1987, and it was through his friendship with Scott Ian, of all people, that Scott told him, hey man, I can connect you with the people at ESP and maybe they can create a guitar for you. So they did, and take a good look at it. It is a Stratocaster, has crossbone inlays, and that Zorlak skateboard sticker is what really made this guitar have a face of its own. You'll see it has a 3 inline control knob layout. Really, in Kirk's words, when he was designing it, he told the people, I want the best of both worlds. I want the specs of a Strat and a Flying V into one. It is a neck through, which is also important to Kirk. And believe it or not, and not a lot of people know this, that from the 17th fret on, this guitar on the neck is scalloped. And for some of you non-guitar people who don't know what that is, that means that the grooves in the neck are cut a little deeper, which allows the guitar player not to have to press so hard when he's soloing. So yeah, very cool. It was a time, in Kirk's career, kind of like leading into the Black record and Justice for All kind of era, where he wanted to play just super heavy, aggro, heavy metal. And he used this record, like I mentioned a little while ago, he did use it to record on the Black album. And all the other versions of the Kirk Hammett signature model, not just the Zorlak, but all the different ones that you see, one of which we're going to talk about next, have the same specs. Now, these guitars came out like in 88, 89, maybe one or two in 90. So if you can get your hands on one of these, they have them, of course, in the Kirk Hammett. The ones that Kirk Hammett uses are the ones that say ESP on the headstock. And then they have, of course, the affordable versions for all us regular people, which are the LTDs. But still, nonetheless, the LTDs will run you around $1,200 online. Man, I have had my opportunity to get my hands on one recently. The White Zombie one. Had a collector approach me and ask me if I wanted to buy it. And I was about this close to buying it. But I decided not to because I'm going to save my money for a guitar that we're going to talk about later on. As I shared, there were many variations of the Kirk Hammett signature model, and one that has become quite renowned and popular with Kirk Hammett's name is called the Mummy. Go ahead and take a look at it. Of course, that is a custom painted guitar. It was inspired by the 1932 Boris Karloff movie. As you know, Kirk Hammett is big on horror, and if you didn't know, Kirk also has a book called Horror Business that was released several years back. Yes, I have that in my archive too. And this guitar really has become Kirk's go-to guitar. So whenever you see him live, he always has the Mummy with him. And it's the original one that he got from the company, because you can tell when you look, the paint job even goes over the pickups. So if you look at the pickups, they are kind of, the paint is kind of just rubbed off them over the years of road work. He got the Mummy in 1994, and he's always stated too that this guitar, kind of just like Greenie, has its own vibe. It has its own sound. So when he plugs it in, it sounds great, man, to him and all the fans when he jams it. I love to see him play that guitar. I know he loves it, and he can definitely shred on it, and that's what I want to see him do. All right, everyone, let's continue. And really, the next three guitars that I'm going to talk about are really some of my favorites in the history of Kirk Hammett. And let's go ahead and take a look at the one that many of you know. Yes, for many, many years, and I recall during the Master of Puppets era, Kirk Hammett played the black Randy Rhoads Offset Flying V. As you can see, oh man, it is so beautiful. And I remember loving the way that he looked with this guitar back in his youth. And this guitar is one that he's used for many, many years. And really, he's stated probably has the most road miles than any one of his guitars. Probably has played more than 3,000 shows. But that guitar is now officially retired. I think he did play it this past year in 2024. He has a brand new strap for it that says RR on it. I don't like the strap, but anyway, that's a different story. But this guitar has huge significance in the history of Metallica because he used it a lot during the Master of Puppets era. And to me, that was the era that really started breaking Metallica out of the underground. Now, next, we're going to talk about a guitar that really a lot of people may not pay a lot of attention to, and that is the Black Fernandez. It is often referred to as the Edna guitar, and that is because he has Edna on the headstock, as well as it's also known as the Hamster Camster, also on the headstock. He played this Stratocaster, black Stratocaster, for many years, especially back in the Ride the Lightning era. You can always tell it because it has those thin EMG pickups on it. Cool guitar. Again, reminding me of Kirk in his youth when he was really hungry and was really super rabid and shredding on guitar. Now, we're also going to talk about another guitar that has not also in the history of Metallica or Kirk Hammett gotten a lot of recognition. And this was a Flying V that was created by ESP. It is called the KH1. Go ahead and take a look at it. Killer as Flying V. And there's so many things that make this guitar unique and significant. As you can see, it has a single pickup with a Floyd Rose on it and one single knob. It is very simple, but looks really cool. As you can see, if you look closely, it has those little devil inlays as well. Now, this guitar came out in 1999, and right now, those guitars are very hard to find. And I love that guitar. Not only is it reminiscent of the 1979 Black Flying V that he used at the beginning of his career, but for whatever reason, there was only a limited number of those guitars ever made. And I'll tell you this, and if anybody out there watching has one, I would buy that guitar in a heartbeat. If I ever saw one for sale, I'm always on the lookout for it. I don't care how much it would cost. I would pay it just to have that guitar. Those are like totally obscure at this point. Now, let's go ahead and end out this session of the Mas Metal monologue talking about really a set of guitars that Gibson came out. Now, some of you may know that Kirk recently in the last couple of years left ESP guitars and transitioned over to Gibson guitars. Now, Gibson right away, tried to cash in on having Kirk as one of their signature people. And one of the ways that they've done that is, like I said earlier, they replicated his 1979 V. Then someone had the bright idea saying, hey, let's just make an affordable V, which is a copy of the 1979 V. However, it won't be a Gibson guitar. It will be an Epiphone guitar. And as you can see, they look just like the classic 1979 V. Has the same kind of setup and specs. And of course, this guitar is a lot more affordable. And if you were paying close attention when I said I didn't want to buy that ESP, I'm saving my money to get me one of the Epiphones. They come in two colors, that black original color and also that really cool purple sparkle. I don't know which one I want, but I think I'm leaning more towards the black one. It is a neck through guitar, and they range probably around at $1,300. So very cool. Of course, it is a signature. On the back of the headstock, it has Kirk's little emblem and signature. So it's really cool to have one of those as Gibson continues to commemorate and recognize the history of such a great guitar player that they have on their roster. So again, guys, I just mentioned, 10 guitars out of dozens and dozens that you're going to find in the Kirk Hammett book. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching the Mas Metal Monologue number 6 right here on Rob's Metalworks. It was great to share with you all of the intriguing things that I love about the new Kirk Hammett book. So if you love heavy metal, if you love Metallica, if you love Kirk Hammett and talking about them, be sure to pick up this book because it makes a great conversation piece when it's lying right there in your living room. I know a lot of people have come over to my house and wanted to take a look at the book, and I say, go for it, man. That's what it's there for. And we have some great conversation about different guitars. So there you go. Please be sure to look for it when you can. Thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in. I hope to do more Mas Metal monologues in the future. I'm just waiting for more cool stuff to cross my path or to come out into the market that I love and want to get. And of course, I'm going to share it with all of you. Everyone, have a good evening. Thank you once again, and I'll see you next time.